Hello and welcome to the Working Tools Masonic Podcast, where today will be part 2 of our conversation with Most Worshipful Brother Chris Coffman, Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Washington.
Ladies and gentlemen, brethren all, welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, a casual conversation around Freemasonry. First, it's important to note that our opinions and thoughts are our own and do not reflect those of our Grand Lodge or respective craft or concordant bodies. Please connect with us and ask questions, either here on YouTube or on our Facebook page. We'd also appreciate a thumbs up and especially any comments on our videos.
Thank you for joining us on the Working Tools Podcast. I'm very worshipful brother Matt Appel, and very worshipful brother David Colbeth and I are Masons here in the state of Washington, and we are joined by our other usual host, worshipful brother Stephen Chung, who is a Mason up in the Grand Lodge of British Columbia in the Yukon. And today our very special guest is Most Worshipful Brother Chris Coffman, who's the Grand Master of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge of Free and Accepted Masons of Washington. Most worshipful sir, thank you for coming out this evening.
No, thank you for having me.
So we left off our previous episode with a brief discussion of your pin for the year, and I see that you've changed your background there. So would you mind discussing that one real quick?
That is the pin that my wife had designed. As I said earlier in the earlier episode, she was an optician, and so glasses were very important, and she loved that lime green. I don't know why, but she really liked it. She liked the forget-me-nots, so we put those in the corners, and it just seemed to fit her very well. And so even though she died in the car accident there 6 months ago, we ordered them anyway, and from what I hear from people that I've sent them out to, her pins go faster than mine, so what can I say? Yeah.
Actually, our fourth host who's not here this evening, Connor, I sent him one of your pins and one of the ladies' pins as well for his collection. So they're even making their way up to BC already.
Good.
Yeah. So we know that you're the Grand Master. We saw your cool pin, but who really is Chris Coffman? What's your Masonic background?
Now that goes way. My Masonic background probably.
Way back.
Well, no, it does. It really does. My father was a very active Mason, very well known in the state of Washington. My grandfather was a Mason, very active in Phoenix Lodge in Sumner till he moved to Everett. And then my great grandfather was one of the charter members in Phoenix Lodge, so we've had 4 generations there. On my mother's side, her father, my grandfather, was a past master of a lodge in Wyoming, in Midwest Wyoming, a little small town. You might have heard of it, or you've probably heard of Teapot Dome scandal. Well, Teapot Dome was just outside of Midwest. Literally. So that's where the scandal was. And his father was a master mason in Nebraska. I am fairly certain that one of my great-great-grandfathers was probably a master mason. I haven't gone back and looked, but yeah, it's been in the family for a long time. I also was in Boy Scouts for a while, and then I love telling the story. The Scoutmaster's son, I had saved my money for a long time, and I'd finally bought myself a 10-speed Swin bike. It was 1964, okay? So it was a long time ago, guys. Well before any of you were probably even born. So I bought this bike, and I saved up all my money, and the Scoutmaster's son said he wanted to ride it, and took off with it, never brought it back. Stole my bike. I finally caught up with him at one point. and he wouldn't get off of it. So my right fist hit his nose, and there was a little bit of blood all over his shirt and stuff. The Scoutmaster told me I would never become an Eagle Scout, and I said I would never come back to a Scout meeting and join DMLA. Turned out to be a great choice on my part. I got to be Master Counselor of my chapter. I served as State Master Counselor in Hawaii. So my Masonic career goes way back. I didn't join Masonry, though, until about 27 years ago, right after we finally recognized Prince Hall. Thought that was very important from my perspective, very important. It also happened to be the same year that my dad became master of his lodge for the first time. So when he got installed, I handed him a petition. As we were walking down the stairs, he almost didn't serve because he almost fell down the stairs. And if you temple up there in Lake City, Yancey's temple, those stairs went down like 3 flights, and it was steep. He almost went down all the way. Yeah. And so, yeah. Nice.
How come you waited so long to join?
Because I waited for Washington to recognize Prince Hall.
Ah,
yeah. I remembered stories. The open air that's at Granite Falls was done by my home lodge, my dad's lodge. When they first did it, he was a tiler in the woods because they wouldn't there was no women's program, and they closed the whole place off, and they had like 25 tilers in the woods to keep people away. We don't do that anymore. But he told me a story about a guy who was a Mason from Spain who was black and was coming there, and people wouldn't come to the open air because he was there. And I said, no, this is wrong. I'm not going to, And this was in the early 60s, or mid 60s. So I waited because I wanted to wait until they actually recognized Prince Hall.
well, good for you. Good for you. That's nice to hear.
Yeah.
It was interesting. I didn't realize. I remember it was a district meeting or some meeting that Most Worshipful Bill Miller was on. He was talking that the Grand Lodge of Washington was actually one of the first to attempt to recognize in the 1800s or early 1900s, but then was overturned in the Grand Annual Communication, and then never got brought back up again until, was it 80s? Sometime in the 80s, wasn't it?
It came up in the 80s and it wasn't finally done until mid 90s or early 90s, somewhere in that area. But
yeah.
Not to get off topic, but Steve, do you guys have Prince Hall lodges up in BC?
No, we just they're part of our lodges. We don't have a separation at all.
Yeah, we don't separate either necessarily. It's just the Prince Hall has chosen to have their own Grand Lodge in Washington, and so the reason and Grandmaster, correct me if I'm wrong too, but my understanding was that the fundamental purpose of a Grand Lodge in a jurisdiction and to be recognized under the regular Grand Lodges, you can only recognize a single Grand Lodge, but Washington and most or all now, I think all of the Grand Lodges have recognized Prince Hall as a regular Grand Lodge, and so they allow for 2 Grand Lodges in the jurisdictions. There's still, as I understand it, there's actually in Washington, I think 2 other Grand Lodges, but we don't recognize them because they're not regular.
well, no, they don't exist. No. I don't know anything about. Generally, the general rule in the United States is that there's geographically only 1 Grand Lodge unless the original one approves joint jurisdiction in that area. And the difference between our Prince Hall and others is it's Prince Hall of Washington and jurisdiction. They have lodges that are in Japan and other areas all around the world that are under our Prince Hall Grand Lodge.
I think Hawaii is in our Prince Hall, isn't it?
I don't remember, to be honest.
think Hawaii and Alaska. It's a significant base.
Well, Alaska is separate. They have their own.
Is it? Okay.
Grand Lodge, yeah. I met their Grand Master. He's only served there last time I was up there, he had been serving as their the Prince Hall Grand Master for like 14 years.
We would like to get Most Worshipful Lester on our show, but I've tried a few BRAC channels. So if maybe in open public, if I can lean on your prudence to assist us in opening that channel, we'd love to have him on the show. And
Lester's a great guy. He was involved. We just had Manitou Watch put on a presentation of Masonry and racism, and Lester was there along with part of the panel were members of the Prince Hall Grand Lodge as well as our Grand Lodge. It was very interesting. And
yeah, it was a great show.
Lester was there.
And so back to our current guest. So Chris, you joined what, 25 years ago, you said?
25, 27 years ago.
And have you branched out? What have you done since you joined?
Well, I've served as master of my lodge here. I joined in Seattle. That's where my home lodge is. It's now Shoreline Lodge. It was Howard Lake at the time, but then they merged and that changed the name or whatever. It's now Shoreline, which is why which meets where my DMLA chapter met, which is kind of ironic in a way. So I was a member there. I joined the lodge here in Tacoma because it's a whole lot closer, and became master there 97, 98, one of those years. I can't remember. It was a long time ago, 97, 98. And then I served as deputy of the Grand Master right after that for Bill Wood and Dick McCarty. Interesting experience. And then I've been on the Grand Lodge team. I was on the trial committee or grievance and appeals for a couple of years. Joint member of the Code Commission. So when we rewrote the code, I was on that. Then I joined the Jurisprudence Committee. I was there for 12 years. At one point, everybody, typically has been one lawyer and 4 past Grand Masters. Typically. I was the lawyer, and the other 4 past Grand Masters, I had been on their Jurisprudence Committee when they served as Grand Master. So it was, so I did a lot of that. My sister also was very active and still is very active in Eastern Star. And after my dad passed away, I ended up being her escort when she was worthy Grand Matron. So I'm still a member of Eastern Star. I have not joined York Rite. I didn't join Scottish Rite. I haven't joined Shrine. I haven't joined Amaranth. And I don't plan on joining anytime soon because I just don't have time.
I can hear the petitions coming they're flying towards you right now.
Yeah. It's nothing against any of those organizations. It's just I don't have time to do it. And I'm not going to join just to say I joined.
Right.
Just
right.
Well,
that's also good to hear because I'm a firm believer if you don't have time to commit to doing it right and doing it well, then why should you join? And I was like you. I found DMLA at 14, but I didn't join Lodge until 1999 because I didn't want to be a joiner who just joined for the sake of joining and couldn't participate. Right?
Yeah. So, yeah.
So I don't mind joiners too much in that as long as you're clear with them. You don't join saying I'm going to be part of things and then. I tell the guys like at Scottish Rite, I say, hey, I can't come because DMLA night is on the same night as your meeting. So I can't, I've never actually, I did go to one meeting. It was, I think just before COVID happened, I was able to attend one meeting because DMLA something was happening. And also I did get wrangled into the temple board over at Scottish Rite. But what I am frustrated about is guys that join and then you never see them in Blue Lodge. And they disappear. And is the concordant group, whatever it is, Scottish Rite, York Rite, Shrine,
Eastern Star.
Any of them. Is that really more important? Like you said,
Right.
they can't even meet without a Mason in most cases. So is that really more important than the Blue Lodge? And I think Blue Lodge is, you got to dance with the one that brung you, is what I always say.
Yeah.
True
So
that.
I appreciate your involvement. My mentor, most Al Jorgensen, is a great example in that even though he's involved in all those things, he always is part of Blue Lodge. He's always doing something Blue Lodge. And so I appreciate, commend you for making your commitment to Blue Lodge.
Thank you. And I very much support Shriners Hospitals. Fabulous organization. In fact, that's one of my charities for the year is the Shriners Hospital in Spokane. And then the Seattle King County Free Health Clinic. They put on their vision program every year at Seattle Center. Lynn coordinated the vision program for several years. And it was very important to both of us. And so,
didn't you say in your presentation there was over 1,000, like 1,200 some glasses that were given out last year?
This last year, they got free eye exams and free glasses for 1,100 people, and almost 100 more who needed cataract or glaucoma treatment got free treatment for them.
Awesome.
And they came from all over the place, and I don't remember the exact number, but it's like 150, 200 separate zip codes. So it's not just Seattle, King County. There are people coming from Snohomish, from Pierce, from Kitsap, on the peninsula, everywhere coming over to get that service. It's just a really major effort. And, so that was very, like it was. I said it was very important to Lynn, very important to me. So we're splitting between these two.
And when you really think about it, guys, if you're active in Blue Lodge, right, then you're going to naturally be supporting all those other bodies anyways, because those guys are going to come to Blue Lodge to sell their tickets and things like that, right? And so, if you're active, you can buy all that stuff there.
Yeah, that's right. They'll get you one way or the other.
Right?
Well, I appreciate the focus on vision and eyes in particular. I'm a member of Lions Club as well, and that was my dad was a charter member of his club, Lions Club in Wisconsin. I'm a charter member of my club here in Bonnie Lake, and of course, vision is a key component to Lions clubs, and so it was really hit home with me your message about. And Lynn's message about vision and visualizing the future, and also the helping with the vision programs, and so it's really important. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
You mentioned too at the beginning of your presentation there was I missed the first one. With Washington Masonic Charities was part of the focus, and then there was another group.
Okay. What I wanted to do with Woody List last year challenged everybody to donate $40. Okay. And he didn't want to have a tie and stuff. I have a tie and I have pins and coins and all that other stuff. But if I can get people to donate $40 to Washington Masonic Charities, I want that split between their endowment fund, so it keeps paying for charitable work forever, and the student success, or on the level student success program, which helps unaccompanied high school kids get through high school, whether they need, whatever they need in order to keep going to school. They need, a pair of shoes so they can play basketball,
Right.
Whatever it may be, they can help with that, and that's what that program's for. And these are unaccompanied kids. They're the old orphans that we used to support.
That's what I liked. We've had Ken and Washington Masonic Charities on a couple of times, as well as Byron, and their message about how taking, like you said, the unaccompanied children and wrapping our arms around them as the orphans of today, which essentially that's what they are. And it doesn't mean that, they may have parents, of course, somewhere, but nobody's taking care of them, and they may not have grandparents or aunts and uncles or whatever. They're just couch surfing or whatever. It's sometimes in cars, and it's unfortunate. It's very sad to hear some of the numbers that he talks about.
Yeah, it is. And if we can help those kids, all the better. Fairweather Lodge actually gave their lodge scholarship to kids who graduated high school who were part of that program. And then one of them ended up going to Western in Bellingham, and they hooked him up with the lodge there in Bellingham. So the lodge is making sure that guy's got what he needs while he's up there trying to go to school, make it on his own. And give the guy a lot of credit, but we're trying to help him too. And kids who graduate in high school have a much lower rate of criminal records and being a burden on society than those who don't. So if we get through, all the better.
They learn that they can achieve that goal of getting through high school, and if they can do that, then they can. It empowers them to strive for other goals, right?
It's true, and they have a better chance to make it in life, Well,
here I was when I was a kid. I knew that all I had to do was go to grade 10 so I could go to trade school, and a trade would give me a good living, right? And but when I got too old, couldn't do the trade anymore, and needed to find that job. Well, if you didn't have a high school diploma, you didn't even get looked at, right? So I'm glad there's programs like that really support the youth in doing that, especially the ones that are by themselves, right?
Yeah, that's so important to help.
Very worthy goal. Very worthy goal.
Thank you.
So just before we wrap up here for the second episode here, I was curious how you. This is probably a loaded question because you're not going to say it's terrible, but how well you and your likely successors in the Grand Line are working together. You talked about long range planning in the last episode. Are you formulating a consistent vision for the next 5 years, or is it do you foresee things going more this way and that way, or how does that working out?
We haven't developed a specific long range planning where they're consistent, but I am fairly certain, based on our conversation. I mean, each one of us, I got, remember the past, visualize the future. What Cameron's theme may be something. It's going to be something different. He can borrow mine if he wants, but I don't think he's going to. And there are differences of opinion on some things. Generally, we're been in line when we're dealing with issues, and so I anticipate that will continue. Like I said, I didn't have a new program other than I want you to fix the committee structure, Matt, and the long range planning. David's going to make sure every lodge has got one. Other than that, I didn't really ask for anything different. Just do what we have been doing, and actually use what we have. So I think Cameron's pretty much the same vein. Ed is. Steve, I'm still working on him.
Like you said, we can probably give them a long range plan, but they got to use it.
That's true. It's sort of like that communication method we talked about last time. There's
a thing called testimonials. Find some lodges that have done well with things like the 6-step program, the mentorship programs, all the different programs that are out there, and maybe get them to hold an education on a Zoom thing, or talk about how they made it work, and share the success stories, because that's really what it takes. Is like Barry Birch had mentioned, the successful practices, the best practices link on our website. Those people there have all volunteered to be contactable and to give a little guidance, things like the text messaging program we do and so on. It's all there. And like you say, most worshipful, people just have to use it. And I think that if we can, just poke them a little bit, and especially the ones that are retired or are not working right now because of COVID, they have a little extra time, they could put some planning into opening up these files. You know, we were so amazed at the content of education material in the mentorship program that was given to us by our Grand Lodge. You know, unfortunately, you know, the really how we felt so bad that we had all that material for 6 years before we even opened that file. Right? We got going with the 6-step program, and we never opened the rest of the files. Right? You know, so 6 years gone down the tubes because we didn't know, but now we know, and you know, working with what we have, it's there, it works.
Yeah, you know, that we've got that stuff. We will be doing more things, sort of like the 2-hour one I did a couple of weeks ago. We'll be doing some more of those. I know that we had to cancel our lodge leadership retreat, the former wardens conference, because we just couldn't put it on. I mean, there was just no way it was going to work. So we canceled it, but Jeremy and the committee is going to be doing some surveys with brothers to see which ones of those classes they would like to see, and then we're going to put a few of those out so that people can just join in, and using probably Zoom or another platform.
So it looks like we're headed to the end of our second half hour here. So first of all, on behalf of David and Steven, yes. Apparently I can't say your name tonight. On behalf of David,
all right.
David and Steven, I'd like to thank you for being here, sir. And I guess just is there anything else you'd like to say to put the cherry on the top of today's session?
I would like everybody to be safe, do your social distancing, wear your mask when you get out in public, do what the health authorities are telling us, and we're all looking forward to meeting together as brothers on the level, and when we can, we will, but we're not going to do it any faster than the health and welfare of our brothers will permit.
Here. Well, thank you again, Grandmaster, and thank you for tuning in to the Working Tools Masonic podcast. Good night.
Good night, all.